This is Entrepreneurs Get Visible, the podcast for people who want more impact, influence, and income. I'm Anna Parker-Naples, and I'll be sharing with you proven methods from leading entrepreneurs that help you get visible as an authority in your field. Because anything's possible when you get visible. Hey, and welcome back to today's show. Today, I'm going to be running through some of the questions that I ask myself as part of my year-end review. I'm going to be sharing with you not only some of the reflective questions, but some of the challenges and successes that I've gone through myself this year in an effort, in a desire for you to be able to take this process and apply it to your own business, to start to be really honest about what you want, about areas of growth that have worked, about areas where you've stagnated, and to give you an overview of where you want to go next. So this particular episode is about what we've done in 2021. And in the next episode, which will be our first in 2022, we're going to be looking at how you take the information from this process to move forward. So this is an episode where I hope that you will potentially come back to it when you're not out walking the dog or driving the car or busy in the kitchen, and use the questions here to give yourself that reflection time. The way that I like to reflect is potentially to do a meditation where I get myself in a really calm state. I give myself a good couple of hours to journal through the questions, to journal anything else that comes up, to look back through a planner that I've used throughout the year to see what I've taken stock of on a weekly and then monthly basis. Because I think sometimes we forget what we did nearly 12 months ago back in January. And I do think it's important to highlight exactly what has happened. So this is one you want to come back to with pen and paper. I want you to start with reviewing what you did achieve, what actually happened for you. So interestingly, as I was going through this myself, there were lots of things I'd forgotten that I'd done. So for example, I got some really great speaking gigs this year. And so I was speaking for some big industry events such as Podfest, and I was speaking for the Professional Speakers Association and all sorts of the smaller talks that I'd kind of forgotten about because they were so early in the year. In my business, we really focused on growing the podcast agency as the premium level place to launch your podcast, and also the recurring revenue section of that, which is our ongoing production. And I focused on that, and actually we surpassed the target for how many clients we wanted to bring on board for that. We also launched my Amplify program. In fact, we launched it twice. We didn't hit our revenue target for it. And there were some learnings that I took from the delivery of that program and for the launches we did around it that I'll be sharing with you a little bit later on in this episode. Other things we did were launching the podcast booking boutique, which was our guest booking service. And again, we have made some decisions about that offer that I'm really happy to make now, but I'll talk you through exactly what happened for that and how I feel about it. We've also released, just in the last couple of months, we've been doing our first projects for expert audiobooks, which not only is a new offer, but we're building it as a separate company. And that's been amazing to really step back into an arena that I'd kind of put on the shelf a few years back, and to come at it in a much more powerful way that's much more in tune with the business that I'm doing here with you guys, rather than back in the audio narrator performance field. I feel like there's a hybrid of both of my worlds there. So what did you achieve? What were actually the highlights? And were some of those early on in the year that maybe you have not forgotten about, but are maybe dismissive of? Then I want you to look at what didn't happen. What didn't happen for you that you wish it had? And what didn't happen for you that you no longer desire? So for me, two of those things are the podcast booking boutique. We launched that. We had some good results for clients. But actually, by the time we got that service off the ground, there was so much competition. So many people went out into that field at exactly the same time we did. And whilst we were getting results for people, we weren't finding enough joy and enough profitability to really feel as though we were doing our absolute best in that marketplace. And so we spent all that time and investment in getting our processes together, building relationships with other podcasters. And I decided about a month ago to put an end to that. So we're just finishing up with some of those clients now. It just isn't the direction that my business is going to go in. So for me, that had been intended this time last year, that would be something we would massively grow and scale. Everything was built with the ability for us to be able to scale. But I like getting results for people, and we weren't able to have that premium cherry on the top feel that I really wanted. I don't see that as a failing at all. I actually feel that learning when to let something go is extremely important. And if something isn't bringing joy, if it isn't, I don't mean easy, if it isn't feeling right for you and your team, then you've got to look at, is this something we really want? And so that's definitely an indication of something I no longer desire for my business. And the other thing for us was the Amplify program, which I've decided as I was running those programs that I no longer want to run them again live. So for the next year at least, they will only be available on an evergreen program and not delivered live, because I have witnessed that there are too many similar style programs, and when there are too many people doing similar things, it's very hard then to be in that category of one that I think is really important for your business. And whilst I love that work and it felt really important, actually, as I've grown throughout the year, as my business has grown, my knowledge has grown, I realised that actually there's a different kind of client that I want to serve. And so making the decision that we're not going to be in launch for that again is an important thing for me to let go of. And I feel very invested in that course. I feel as though there's lots of things in that course that I won't now be teaching elsewhere. So there's a little bit of sorrow in losing it, but it isn't lost. It is knowledge that is going to be packaged in a different way. What didn't happen for me, I didn't focus on getting a TED Talk. And again, right now, that isn't something I desire, but it was definitely on my wish list for this year. I had intended to write a third book in the podcasting space. And every time I started that project, it didn't feel right. And I hadn't actually allowed myself to take time out creatively in the way that I had intended. I have a huge creative project that I'm throwing myself into in 2022. And this, for me, I believe will actually fuel my business because I'm allowing myself to expand in a different capacity using different parts of my brain. It was frustrating to me that I hadn't allowed the time for that to happen. What I did achieve that was really great was having every Friday off. I think there were only 2 or 3 Fridays where I felt I had to catch up on some work, but generally I gave that day to myself to do whatever I wanted to do. And that has actually been a game changer in my energy in the business. I want you also to think about, what did you set out to do this year? And did you actually commit to it? Did you actually give it the energy that you wanted, or did you grow away from that? Because that's okay. Overall, though, I want you to tap into how you feel about what has happened for you and to you this year. How do you feel about your personal life this year? How do you feel about your business life this year? And is there an overall feeling? How much have those things collided? I believe that our business lives, as particularly solo entrepreneurs or those of us who are running a team, your life and your business don't sit in separate boxes. They are the same. You are one massively impinges on the other. So how do you feel about this year? And if you had to encapsulate that in one word, what represents what you've just been through? So looking back at those achievements throughout the year, whatever they've been, whether it's been courses or launches or learnings, which of those achievements are you massively underplaying? So this might be press that you've been in. This might be platforms that you've spoken on. This might be just the fact that you've got through a really turbulent period. So which of those are you underplaying? And which of those, if you brought them to the fore in your social media content, would actually help you elevate your status? I want you then to think about how are you and have you celebrated each of those moments of success, those moments of achievement. And again, remembering that success and achievement is not always the shiny stuff. Sometimes it is getting yourself through a challenging period. So for me, in my world, I've been really open on this podcast that I've had some extremely challenging challenges in my personal life. I'm celebrating in this period in December that I have got myself through those periods, that my business has been stable throughout those periods, that I have allowed my team to support me in those periods. So think about how you celebrate that, how you acknowledge that for yourself. As you know, I've recently got back from a trip to LA. Part of going to Los Angeles was allowing myself to celebrate and feel deserving of having a moment away to reflect on my business. So what are you doing to celebrate? And these are probably, this next question, the answer to this question probably rolls off the tongue fairly easily or flows out of your pen. What were the biggest challenges that threw you off course this year? What were they? And is it true that you had to be blown off course? And is it true that there was nothing you could do to stop it? Is it true that you needed to be blown off course? Because sometimes actually we do. Because when we go a little bit awry for whatever reason, it gives us an opportunity to reflect, to regroup, to realise who we are and what we're doing. So what were those biggest challenges? For me, some of the biggest challenges were having immense personal pressure right smack bang in the middle of launches. And that meant I had to completely hold back or step back or even stop some of the offers we were going out with, which sort of at the time smarted a little bit, but were completely and utterly the right thing for me to do. And I think sometimes there is real power in making those challenging decisions, even if they don't feel great at the time. So what was it that threw you off course? And a little bit further on that one, what is it you need to forgive of yourself or other people? Or, if the word forgiveness isn't quite right for you right now, what is it you need to let go of? What's the story and the excuse or the block that you need to let go of in order to close that period off for yourself? What personal lesson can you take from that biggest challenge? Or those biggest challenges? What are the personal lessons you take from that? And what are the business lessons you take from that? So for me, my personal lessons have been that no matter what, my health and wellness has to come first. My rest time and my creative and expansion time has to be top priority every day. And my business lessons have been that I need to make sure that anything we build in the business, I am empowering my team to take over and potentially training up more people to take over elements should something happen in my life, so that I have much more freedom and flexibility within the business itself. My business lessons have also been that I, at the moment, am choosing to not encompass a launch model in my business because of how that has affected me energetically when I've had personal challenges. And I'm quite excited about going into 2022 where that isn't part of the plan at the moment. But knowing that I can bring that knowledge and expertise and experience back in when the time is right for my own life. I want you to think then about where you grew. Now, this doesn't have to be about your profit. This doesn't have to be about your social media. This could be about where you grew in confidence, or you grew in knowledge, or you grew in expertise. So have a think about where you grew. And once you've got all of those listed out, I want you to think about where you stagnated. Where have you taken your foot off the pedal? And then I want you to think, is that okay? Is it okay that I did that? Do I want to continue at that pace? Or actually, do I feel some sadness or regret that I haven't grown in particular areas? And naturally there, I wanted to go on to, and what can you do to change it for next year? But I don't want to do this episode about how we move forward, because I think it's actually really important to take stock of what's happened first before you move into thinking ahead. We've got to acknowledge the lessons before we apply them. I want you to think about who has supported you. So this could be in your business, this could be team, this could be freelancers, this could be people within membership groups or Facebook communities, this could be in masterminds or courses, this could be coaches. This could be about whether your partner or your friends or your parents have supported you, whether your children have supported you. And how do you feel about that? And conversely, who has not supported you that you perhaps would have expected to have supported you? And once you notice that, well, what can you do about it? What can you do to either remove that expectation that they would support you, or to find other people that could support you and you can feel more held by them? Then I want you to think about who that you've seen online or been surrounding yourself with has inspired you. Who are the people you're drawing motivation, inspiration, insight, and knowledge from? And conversely, who is it that you're watching or surrounding yourself with that for whatever reason has you doubting yourself? Because I know that those people are out there. Maybe you're following their Instagram. Maybe you see their Facebook posts, or you're in their Facebook group. Who is it that actually deep down does not make you feel good about yourself? Maybe their words and messages are intended to inspire, but there's some feeling you have that something isn't quite right. And in those cases, in fact, I'm not going to wait to the next episode. I'm going to tell you now. They're the people you need to unfollow. You need to not have them in your threads. You want to make sure that you are reducing the amount of time you spend with them. I want you to think about what has worked in your business. What strategies, what tools, what environments have really worked for you. And then I want you to think about what has not worked. What did not work that you aren't going to try again? You're ready to leave that behind. So this might be perhaps a particular way you deliver content, or it might be a platform that you don't like using. And so can you shelve it? Overall, when you look at the questions you've answered so far, what were your biggest lessons? So some of my biggest lessons this year have been that as I build my business, I actually need to be very mindful of what's going on in my external family. I need to be mindful of how much time and mental and emotional capacity I have to feel like I'm constantly on in business. So for me, going forward, I'm looking at how do I create more time and ease for myself? So what is it for you that's been your biggest lesson? Then I want you to think about, well, what am I most grateful for? And not just most grateful, but what are maybe the 10 or 20 things that you're grateful for that you have achieved in your business this year? And not just achieved, but what have you experienced? What have you noticed? What have you allowed? And that gratitude is really important, particularly if you're in a space where maybe things feel like they've been a bit shitty this year. What can you be grateful for? Next question, how was your general wellness? if you're honest about that, because as business owners, if we're not looking after ourselves, you will burn out, you will become unwell, you won't manage well, you won't show up well. How can you improve your general wellness? What is it you know you need to remove and add in to increase your levels of wellness and energy? And following on from that, what was your general performance level like? And what was your general level of leadership like? Whatever leadership looks like for you in your business. Then looking at evaluating your day-to-day processes, your day-to-day activities in your business, I want you to think about what were the little things that I enjoyed most on a day-to-day basis. For me, I love just coming home after I've done the school run, having a cup of tea, collecting my thoughts, and then diving into my day. I really love that. I love having my calls in the afternoon once I've had some really focused work time. I love the fact that I limit when I have client calls. I choose which days and times I'm available to people. Look at the things you enjoyed and the things you didn't, and notice which ones brought you joy and which ones didn't. What do you want less of this year? What do you want less of? A big one for me is that I chose about halfway through the year that I wanted less time on Zoom. It was stressing me out being on calls and showing up for online trainings with other people. It was just too much, and I felt like it was frying my brain slightly. So that's something I already started to reduce. I know that I want to reduce the amount of time I'm personally on social media, either consuming or posting. So if I then have to look at, well, what's that going to look like, and why do I want less of that? Again, it comes down to that wellness and performance and leadership element. What is it that I want to let go of? What is it you most want to let go of? And this could be a feeling, this could be regrets, this could be a sense of failure, a sense of having to push. I think it's important to look at the energy going on in your business and think to yourself, is it sustainable? What I'm doing right now, can I continue at that level? And if you're not satisfied with the profits that you've made this year or the turnover you've had this year, starting to think about, well, what were the behaviours and attitudes that did or did not allow for what happened for me financially? Who was I this year? What did I bring to the table? And what did I actually hide? Because I think when you look at your business and yourself and your own activities in this way, you can have some really important breakthroughs for the year to come. I hope you'll sit down and go back through these questions and take that time for yourself. I actually am one of those people who really loves the beginning of a new year. I love a new diary. I love a new planner. I love a new notebook. And I love giving myself space over this busy Christmas period for me, because I am the driving force of my business. And if I'm not reflective about what I want to achieve, what I want to bring into my life and why I want to bring them in, then they're not going to happen. So grab yourself a pen, grab yourself some paper, go back to the beginning of this track. And I would love to know, if you let me know on Instagram what your biggest takeaway from this episode has been, I will make sure that I share it in my stories. Wishing you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you for listening to Entrepreneurs Get Visible. To get your free checklist on how to raise your profile and to find out about our community, go to annaparkernaples.co.uk/get visible.